we have our history office at the other end of the building. She's when I interviewed her, it seems like enough time has gone by, and Kurt's he's been passed longer than he was ever alive at this point.
Absolutely.
It's kind of hard to believe that so much time has gone by, but maybe not all of her memories and recollections are as clear as they once were.
Right.
But yeah, but she did mention about how she came home one day and there was one of those rigid wall little kiddie pools in the living room when you first go into the house, where the entrance to the hallway was, I believe she said, and there were turtles in it. And she didn't. I don't know, where do these turtles come from? I have no idea, but there were, and so the turtles are there. And then when he's asked to leave, the turtles stay behind. But then, I think she asked the boys, you need to figure out where Kurt is and have him come get his stuff. And I think eventually he gets moved down to Dell's house temporarily. But once he gets into the shack, for a better word, on what is it, the 1,500 address.
Yep.
The story is that the turtles show up there, and now there's a bathtub that's installed in the living room, and so
well, it was a kitchen actually, but yeah.
So and I haven't been able to get too much clarification from what I've read, is that it was an odd layout in this house: 2 small bedrooms, 2 living rooms, a bathroom, not a functioning kitchen per se. There was a refrigerator or an ice box out on the back stoop.
It had the kitchen, which is where I remember the bathtub being.
Okay.
I don't know that it was plumbed. There was a hole in the floor.
I heard that Matt cut a hole in the floor, so they have a place to drain everything out. What did that bathtub look like? Was it like
it was just a porcelain, clawfoot, exactly what it was.
Okay, and so you recall seeing the turtles scurrying around?
Yeah.
How were they? Were they big? Were they?
No, they were just like this big, and they sort of didn't smell really great.
Yeah.
But that whole kitchen was like, there was nothing in there that worked.
Yeah. It wasn't functioning.
No.
Yeah. But there was a constant story. So I think, if I remember the timeline correctly, I think he was probably only in that place for maybe about 7 months or so before.
That sounds about right.
Leaving for Olympia. But it seems like there was maybe a steady stream of people in and out of that house. I've heard, I don't know if this is accurate, that the Melvins would even practice there sometimes.
Yeah, I don't ever recall that.
Don't recall that, but you do recall the band practicing there. I think this is obviously the Aaron Burkhart.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Aaron didn't live very far away.
Yeah.
And I didn't live very far away. I was half a block away over on East First Street.
Oh, okay. All right.
And the whole Raymond show, there was a whole after that that is, that story is legendary in and of itself, because
the Raymond show.
Yeah. And it's the concert happened, and it was, I didn't find out until about the time Charles Cross interviewed me 10 years after Kurt passed, that there was actually a recording of that show made. And I got a copy of it given to me through Charles.
Oh, wow.
But Tony and I have been friends all these years, but he was just like, not saying anything. There were photographs taken of that night, and I didn't realize that either.
Have you seen any of these photographs?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
They're on Twitter and everything. His daughters found them and asked her dad about them, and said, yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah.
And then it became a thing, it blew up in the social media.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that
you're talking now, same night, back at the little house.
Nussbaum house, yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened getting out of Raymond was kind of a sort of a train wreck. Skid Row, Nirvana, whatever you want to call them, quit playing. And then there was a bunch of Jeff Franks and Tony had a bunch of equipment there all set up all the time anyway. And I'd been going down there every other weekend to hang out with them anyway. And so after Nirvana stopped playing, I'm not really sure where Aaron did. I mean, he probably went out in the kitchen and got a beer. And so I picked up either one of Tony's guitars or Chris's guitar and started playing the bass line to Sex Bomb by Flipper.
Okay.
And I think Tony was on guitar, and Chris went into the bathroom, took his shirt off, and found some fake vampire blood and squirted it all over himself and came out, and he did the same thing at the K-Dorm show. And anyway, started singing the lyrics to Sex Bomb.
Uh-huh.
And just sort of overall mayhem, you know. And one time he was draped across this big Zenith television set, you know, and jumping out this window, pouring down rain, and then coming around, running back in the house and doing a couple more stanzas of Sex Bomb, Baby Come On, and then jumping out the window again and running around the house. And then at some point in time, we all just got bored with that and stopped. And I went out into the foyer that sort of went out to where the van was and was looking at loading equipment or whatnot. Oh, and at one time, I think I saw Chris standing, and so this van was a van that I had borrowed from Binny's Quality Floors in Ocean Shores, because I told my boss that, hey, you know, my friends are moving again, can I borrow the carpet van for the weekend, and I'll bring it back on Monday. And he said, sure, go ahead, here's the keys. And so when we left Aberdeen from 1,000 and a half, wherever that house was.
East 2nd Street, I think.
Yeah. We just threw everything in the back of the van, and all of us are riding in the van.
Mm-hmm.
So there's Chris, Shelley, Kurt, Tracy, Aaron, and myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know who was the passenger. I drove going down, and somebody was a passenger. They're all in the back with the gear and a whole bunch of beer, and all, you know, I don't know if Kurt took his amplifier, and I know Chris took his bass, and Aaron did not bring his drums. So anyway, we go down there, we play the show, and at some point in time, like, Chris is standing barefoot, jeans, no shirt on, blood down the front, and peeing off the top of the van. This is a big cargo van.
Yeah.
Onto one of the other cars, and I went up to Aaron and said, hey, I think we ought to go.
Yeah.
And Aaron said, yeah, I think that's a good idea. So we all got in the van and got out of there. And I started driving. I don't know if you know where this Nussbaum House Road is.
I've looked at it on a map. I haven't gone down.
It's out in the sticks.
Yeah.
And I didn't even make it back to town. And Aaron said, hey, I don't think you should be driving. And I said, you know what, I think you're right. And I gave him the keys, and I went in the back and went to sleep. And I don't even remember coming in to town, really.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, I get up, and the phone's ringing, and it's my boss in Ocean Shores, and he's like saying, hey man, are you guys done with the van? I could really use it this weekend. Maybe, would you mind bringing it back? And I'm like, yeah, okay, just raging headache. Hang up, go out, where's the van? It's not there. So I go over to Kurt and Tracy's place at 1,000 and a half 2nd Street or whatever, and there's no van there. And so I beat on the door, I'm like, hey, what's going on? And Tracy sticks her head out and goes, oh, didn't the police come over and get you? And I said, what? And she says, oh yeah, so this was about, 2 hours ago, I guess. They should have come and got you. What are you talking about? Well, apparently, when Aaron parked it to unload, he blocked the neighbor's driveway.
Oh, no.
They were supposed to come get you. Okay, so we go find Aaron. He doesn't have the keys. So I get Kurt. I said, you are coming with me. and we are going to go get this. And so we go to AA Auto Wrecking, pull in there, and the guy's just closing the gate. It's Sunday. And anyway, I go in there, I got my checkbook out, I'm like, just tell me what I owe you, because I have to have this van.
Sure.
And so anyway, we get the van, and I'm really disgusted with Kurt, because he's just like, oh yeah, he lives over there somewhere. To whoever these police officer was that came and said, you gotta move this van.
Yeah.
And he didn't.
Oh,
And
they didn't have a phone in the house, right?
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a phone either.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was like a block away, not even.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
So anyway, I wasn't happy. And then we stopped at, what was that? There used to be like where that Thai restaurant is, coming back from,
on the south side.
yeah.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, it used to be called like, not the Lighthouse, but something. It was, anyway, everything was open 24/7.
Okay.
And the bar was open. You could go in there at 7 in the morning and get liquor if you wanted. Well, anyway, we went in there and had breakfast, and I was thoroughly disgusted with them. And so that was the more being all hung over like that, and then almost losing my boss's van, and I lied to him about the whole thing anyway. And that wasn't the first time or the last time.
Oh man.
And but it was, I began to start to understand where these individuals' integrity was, and that it wasn't that they were, trustworthy and looking out for me.
Yeah.
And that played into why I made decisions such as I did later on in life.
Yeah. And ultimately step away from
Yeah.
doing on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you read the part in Charles' book where we had the conversation about, what are your plans when you become 30? And that conversation actually happened. That was when Kurt had received or was sending a letter to Jesse, and where he was in boot camp somewhere or something, and I said, well, it's interesting. You need to think about whatever you're going to do when you become 30, because that was the time where you would be grown up. And Kurt looked at me and he says, I'll never be 30. And that was another one of those places where I was just like really disgusted.
Yeah.
And we argued pretty aggressively about that. That kind of fatalistic attitude.
That mindset.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I have some questions that I made notes on.
Perfect.
But just before I go to that, let me ask, because it sounds like you've probably read quite a bit about what's been written over the years about Nirvana, about Kurt. In your mind, when you think about everything that you've read, what is it that people get wrong about Nirvana or Kurt? I can't imagine it's all 100% accurate. It seems like there's a lot of information that's contradictory and whatnot.
I don't know about that. There's certainly a tremendous desire to get it right. And I applaud that. I think people that there's, I'm sure you're well aware of this this website that tries to, like, every single show they ever played on the date and
Live Nirvana or something like that.
And I know those people, and they've interacted with me over the years, and we've had lengthy discussions about things, so for the most part, I don't, the one thing that I think is the Zalasko Park show, I think is not ever have happened.
Yeah.
And I don't feel confident about the poorhouse either. everybody's got their own, but the other side of it is I wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And I often wasn't there.
Yeah.
And so,
That's a good point. I'm glad you said that, because I mean, looking back on my life when I was, teenager or young adult, even the people closest to me, even my best friend, and we hung out while we were in the band together, he didn't know where I was every day, every night,
Right.
what I was doing.
Right.
There's huge chunks, probably as close and tight as we were, that
Yep.
he would have no clue. A lot of people talk about, and maybe this is a mythology that Kurt was trying to build about his homeless period in his life. And, a lot of people will say there's no way you could sleep under the Young Street Bridge, because of the tide. And I've been under there all different times of year, and, up at the upper part, it's dry enough, and so, some people have said, yeah, he never slept there.